Hey there, it's JohnBerry555 and welcome to my review of the season finale of Star Wars Andor, that being episode 12, Rix Road. So, like many of us were expecting, everything comes back to Ferrix. We see Marva's funeral, and that's actually where I really want to start my review with that. There's other things that go on before and after it, but that's where I want to start. The Empire basically, because they want to lure Cassian, did allow the funeral, but they're putting a lot of restrictions on it, and just just to kind of make it easier, I guess, for that. But I'm oh, we're going to allow 30. They're asking for, okay, you can have 40. You want it at this time? No, can you have it at this time? That kind of stuff, kind of more mild annoyances rather than anything to actually stop the funeral from occurring. Because the Empire wants Marva's funeral to occur so that way Cassian is lured back to Ferrix. Well, obviously Cassian does come back and the funeral goes on, but it's not the way the Empire wants. And that's probably a good way of looking at everything that happens in this episode. It's not what the Empire wants. They're not getting what they're actually after. They might get in some cases what they think they want, but they're not actually getting it. And that we also see with Marva's storyline going on here. It's not too much, but essentially, her and her husband Perrin come back from a party, and basically Marva's insinuating that Perrin's gambling again because she knows her driver is an ISB spy, or strongly suspects. So that way, the Empire was looking at the troublesomeness of her accounts, were oh, it's just she's trying to cover for her husband's gambling rather than actually funding the rebellion. So kind of throwing her own husband under the bus. But the thing is, the Empire thinks they got what they wanted there, but they didn't. Because if they were really getting what they needed or wanted, they would actually discover that Marva was funding the rebellion. But they did not discover that because she didn't give it to them. She gave them basically a false lead, a wild goose chase. And of course, just going on with Marva, it does seem like she's going through with setting up an arranged marriage according to Chandrian customs for her daughter with that one basically money launderer to help cover up her finances. But as we saw in the last episode, at this point, Marva's daughter Lida may not necessarily be opposed to it, but you can definitely tell that Marva is not happy about it. So that does put a unique spin on it that that I don't think we initially were expecting when we first got it. But that's just a little side note, kind of showing what's going on on the political intrigue side. But going back to Ferrix, Cassian returns, he talks with his friends and all that, and basically he decides he's going to rescue Bix from the ISB, and they're holding her in one of the hotels on Ferrix that they turn into the headquarters. And he does that during Marva's funeral. But before all that, he talks with his friend, I forget his name, but the guy who helped cover for him all the way back in episode 1, who also helped take care of Marva, who stayed the night with B after Marva's death. That guy, I can't remember his name. But essentially, he relays to Cassian some of the final things that Marva said, which really was impactful for Cassian. That on top of right before all this goes down, Cassian is listening to what's the kid from Aldari. Why do these names slip my mind? But anyhow, Andor is listening to the manifesto, which essentially talks about how even the smallest spark of rebellion can be as simple as just essentially not bending down to the sword. You're doing small little stuff, and then that connects it up with the funeral and Marva's speech, because she obviously recorded basically a last speech which be plays to everyone on Ferrix before, well, the event goes down, as I'm calling it, before a riot breaks out. All because the Empire could not stand what Marva was saying, knowing that would basically inspire the people of Ferrix to rebel, which does occur. A riot breaks out, all because one Imperial officer tries to basically stop the hologram recording from being played. And it keeps on going down for the Empire from there. It's not great for the people of Ferrix at all. They die, they get injured, all that, but that's what occurs. Starts as a simple riot, and then one of them throws a bomb. Specifically, a kid, not necessarily a kid, he's probably more like a young adult or older teenager, probably around there. But his father was hanged by the Empire only a couple of episodes ago. And so he's doing the same thing Cassian did when Cassian's adopted father, Clem, was hanged by clone troopers. The exact same thing, but this time he has a support network that Cassian didn't have during this event. And that essentially turns what starts as probably a simple riot into a full-blown, I'm going to say it turned basically into a street revolt. And it goes out to hand for the Empire. One of the Imperial officers panics and orders the stormtroopers to open fire, who at this point hadn't been doing anything. They were just standing there while the Imperial army troopers were facing the brunt of it. And it just goes, basically, it's a brawl in the streets. Stormtroopers are firing, people are jumping onto Imperials and trying to take them down. Sometimes they get shot, sometimes not. They're rescuing each other from the Empire, from Imperials as they're trying to be arrested. Essentially what we're seeing is basically a revolt that's going to help contribute to the forming of the rebellion. The people are fighting back against the Empire, standing up against oppression, standing up for what is right, for freedom, for liberty, for basically not being treated as others and not letting others be treated as a dangerous other that is unfounded. And that's all going on while Cassian is rescuing Bix. And of course, during all of this, we also have Lucien. He's just watching it all going around, which connects very nicely back to when he told Saw he was a coward. He's afraid to get himself dirty. He's afraid. But I do wonder if Marva's speech might have maybe got him to rethink his stance. Maybe realize maybe he does need to put himself in more harm, allow himself to put himself in danger that could risk his own life. I don't know, but that'd be very interesting to, well, explore. And then we also see with Cyril and the ISB supervisor Dedra, they're at this time, and she's in the crowd during all this because she had the lead on Cassian's whereabouts, so she was trying to go find him. Well, Cassian got away, but she's stuck in the crowd as the riot starts. And she's taken down, and she's knocked down, and she only manages to get out because Cyril saved her. And again, Cyril, he's creepy as fuck, and I'm saying that. And you can tell Dedra's like, she's thankful she's alive, but she's like, why did it have to be this guy? But at the same time, we also saw that Cinta killed one of the members of her staff, so there's now an opening, and I wouldn't be surprised if Cyril would like to take it, even though I think Dedra would rather not. But again, they're both Imperials, they're both fascists, and the thing is that fascists use each other to climb the ladder. That's what's going to go on. They're going to jockey for power. There's a lot going on there, and I don't think it's going to turn out well for either of them. And not because of anything the rebellion is doing, but because of their own actions. There's a few other things going on as well during all this, because there's so much. The Time Grappler is basically doing his thing, and that's what's signifying the start of this. Not on the Empire schedule. More people showed up than the Empire was expecting, which causes them to panic, which led to the riot as I described to you. The Empire lost control on Ferrix. Like Cassian said during the prison arc episodes, power, let's see, what is it? Power does not panic, something like that, and the Empire panicked and they lost control because of it. Now, they'll gain control back through force, I'm sure, because it's the Empire, and it's going to be bloody, it's going to be costly, but they will try to gain back to control. The rebellion has not been formed. This is not like, no, we can even take an example for Star Wars Rebels with Rosal. They pushed off the yoke of Imperial oppression, but the thing is, they had outside help, the Rebel Alliance. Sure, the Rebel Alliance wasn't able to send a lot, but that just little bit of support. There's a few X-Wings, a few Rebel pilots that were stayed behind. They had additional help besides just themselves, and they were able to throw it off. That's what was showing, I think, in the show, that as the Rebels expand and become a true alliance, they're helping each other fight off the Empire. We saw the Anto Kriegers, his attack is destroyed, but that's because of Lucien's fear of being a coward, now willing to sacrifice Krieger and his forces so that way his more ISB is discovered, he's willing to do that, but it's not in the proper alliance. That's, I think, what my monster's part role in the forming the Rebel Alliance is going to be, making an actual alliance where rebels help each other to defeat the Empire. I think that's what we're going to see in Season 2. The Empire is going to slam its boot on Ferrix after this. Maybe they'll rise up again, maybe they won't. But unfortunately, I think it's going to fail because the Empire is going to come back and force and use violence to enforce their will and their power. And that's going to, I think, contrast to what we see later on in the timeline where the Rebel Alliance are helping each other throw off the Empire and succeeding at doing it. The Rebels are there, but the Alliance is not. And I think that is where I'm going to end the episode besides 2 final points, or I should say my review. 1. Cassian presents himself to Lucen and basically says, I'm in. And that's what the show has been building up to. Cassian making the choice to become a rebel. Not just to be someone who's against the Empire and is willing to steal from them and fight them on occasion, but to someone who's actively choosing to fight the Empire. Not because the Empire is impacting him personally, even though they have, but because the Empire is trying to oppress everyone and they need to be stopped. This can actually be nicely illustrated with before Cassian presents himself to Lucen, he makes sure that Bix, his friend, whose name I forgot, and the kid who threw that bomb, he makes sure that they get off plan before he does that. He's helping them escape. He's helping them not for his benefit, but for their benefit. This actually does contrast with Zero saving Dedra. He did not do it to save Dedra. He did it for himself because he saw that was an opportunity to endear himself to Dedra, to make an inroad with the ISB, to essentially to continue to hunt Cassian, to seek, for that better term, his power back, because that's what he wants. That is very different. He's a foil to Cassian very much because of this. Cassian helps his friends because it's the right thing to do, because they need help. Zero helps Dedra, not to help Dedra, but to help himself. His selfish need to climb the ladder, to not be on the bottom of the fascist system. Rather than fighting the system that pushing him down, he thinks he has to climb up the system. Just a little contrast there. And then the very last thing is the post-credit scene. So apparently, I was wrong. They were building a part for the Death Star. Yeah, the post-credit scene shows the Death Star super laser in its assemblage stage. And what it seems to be doing is the parts they were building in the prison are being used as joints for sections of the Death Star's super laser dish. Now, probably nothing right, not necessarily, it's not like, a main reactor or something in the actual super laser itself, but something just a component in it. A component that they need thousands, millions of. But I also wouldn't be surprised if the Death Star is not the only place this component is used. I have a feeling that this component is used in a lot of other parts of the Imperial War Machine. It's just that these components were specifically earmarked to the Death Star. I was a big fan of the theory that just a generic component for the Imperial War Machine. And guess what? The Death Star still needs those generic components. Now maybe this component is unique to the Death Star, but maybe it's not. And I like that is open-ended. And I do kind of like the idea that, Cassian, there is some symmetry, some poetic rhyming that Cassian was building parts when he was in prison that would lead to his own death. There is some kind of poetic irony in all that. But still, I still would like to learn that these parts are just used for the Death Star, used for other things, because I think that would be even more impactful, that the Empire is using prisoners, people who showed the tiniest bit of disrespect to the Empire, to build the war machine that oppresses the galaxy. Because I feel like that would be even more tragic. Not just the Death Star, but everything. But that's just my thoughts and my wishes about those parts. Obviously, I'm probably going to be wrong. But I would love that, because I feel like that would say a lot more about the systems of the Empire. But that is where I'm going to end this review. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please be sure to leave a like. And also comment down below, what did you think of this episode? I would love to hear your thoughts on Rix Road. Also, be sure to check out any of the links down below Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, all that stuff is down below. Also, be sure to check out any of the videos about to appear on screen, and subscribe to the channel, and ring that bell. And as always, have a good day, a good night, wherever you are. May the Force be with you, always.